Okay guys, Private Jack here, and going through some of these discussions in the Source Filmmaker discussion group. Found that a lot of people want to know how to make giant robots. Well, it can be a little bit complicated, but it is doable. Now, to do it, you cannot use Source Filmmaker direct. There is no method in Source Filmmaker to rescale models. So what you have to do is you actually have to decompile the model that you want to rescale, and then there's two methods that you can use. You can either use the method of importing it into a 3D graphics editor and editing the actual models, then exporting it and recompiling and all the rest of that good stuff. Or there's other method that you can use is to use the $scale method that you edit the QC with, and then you recompile the model. Anyway, make a long story short, I'm going to take you through the quick and dirty route and basically see where we get to with this one. So I've been playing with this a little bit, and I think I finally got the method down. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our system so that we can do this. Now, I've already created a folder on my desktop called bots. I'm going to open that folder, and inside that folder I've made two other folders. One is the reference model, and the other is a decompile folder. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the reference folder, and in here I'm going to create a new folder called bot pyro, and we're going to blow the pyro up. So basically bot pyro, and I'm going to go into the decompile folder, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call that one bot pyro. And we're going to come back and use these folders in a couple of minutes. Once that's completed, we have to set up Source Filmmaker so that it will actually recognize the bots when we get them blown up. And one of the programs that we use to compile the models after we're finished requires that folders already exist for the models. So these models are going to end up in the Usermod. So we're going to open up Usermod, and the path is computer C:program files. If you have a 32 bits computer, or programs files x86 if you have a 64-bit computer, Steam apps, common, Source Filmmaker, game, Usermod. Okay. Inside Usermod you must have a models and a materials folder. So if you don't already have those in your Usermod directory, create them. Models and materials. Now we're going to open up the models and get it ready first. So we're going to open up models, excuse me, and I'm going to tell it that I want it to live in a folder called bots. Now, because I've been playing already, I've already got a bots folder, but you have to create this. Bots, and then inside there I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it pyro. And this is where the model files are going to end up. Now, in the materials folder, you have to create the path to where the materials are going to live. And because we're not changing any of the materials from the original bot, what we're going to do is we're going to go up into the TF directory under games, right here. So program files, Steam apps, common, Source Filmmaker, game, TF. We're going to go into the materials folder there. We're going to scroll down, we're going to find models, and in there you're going to find bots, And in the bots folder, you're going to find Pyro. Now these are the materials for the TF player bot, PyroBot. Okay? We need these to live in Usermod as well. So basically all we have to really do is, after we've created the materials folder in Usermod, create a new folder called Models, then another new folder called Bots, go back into the TF directory under Materials, where'd my Materials folder go? Okay, under Materials, go to Models, go to Bots, grab a hold of the Pyro folder, and copy that folder into the Models Bot folder that you created in Usermod. Copy here. Now this will also contain all the materials for our new bot. We're finished with setting up folders now. Okay, next thing that we have to do is we have to pull the original PyroBot model files out of the TF folder. So we're going to go back into TF. Okay, so it's Program Files, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Source FilmMaker, Game, TF, Models, Bots, Pyro, and these files here are the ones that we want. So we're just going to grab this batch of files, and in the Bots folder that we created, under the reference model, in the Bot Pyro, we're going to copy these files to that folder. Now, before we go any further, have a look at these files. There should be 6. Right now we only see 5. The reason why is because these files were created for DirectX 9. Okay, that's what the DX9 VTX file is for. If we try to decompile this model right now, it will fail. The model decompiler that was created prior to DX9, and it needs the DX80 files in order for it to decompile. Now, don't fret. It's very easily to fix this. All you have to do is you have to copy the DX90 file into the same folder and rename the file. Just change the DX90-copy to DX80. Done. Exit out of that. Now we should be ready to decompile. Decompiler that I'm using is the fixed version of Cannon Fodder's model decompiler. It's a graphic user interface, and basically what it does is it decompiles files, right? Okay, it takes the Valve model files and it breaks out all the 3D graphic files into a folder. Now, if you don't have this, what you can do is you can go to the Valve developer site, and under the Wiki Model Decompiler, there's a link here that will allow you to download the fixed version. Now, according to this, you don't really need to modify the model file anymore, changing the 1 to a 0 or to a comma. I've found that not to be true in this case. We're going to have to do it anyway. It might be because I have the old model decompiler still buried somewhere in my SDKs, but I don't know why, but I still have to go in and I have to hex the actual model file. So, that being said, before I try this, Or maybe I will try this and see if we do get the error. So what I need to do is I need to find the model file. And basically I'm going to come back up here. Okay, so we put it in the bots, and it's in the decompile, or wrong, it's in the reference model file folder, and it's under bot pyro, and this is the model file that you require. Now we're going to tell it to throw it in that decompile folder that we created, bots decompile bot pyro. Select that, extract, and my program has crashed. Okay, the reason being is that for some unknown reason, like I say, it might be the fact that I have the old decompiler still loaded somewhere. I have to actually come in and I have to hex my model file. And the model file that I'm going to hex is this bot pyro model. And here in the 5th character where it says 1, I'm going to change that to a comma. I'm going to save the file, and you'll notice that I'm using Notepad++, but Notepad will work. It's better to use Notepad++ though. Okay, now that I've done that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and decompile that model again. So I'm going to restart the model decompiler. I'm going to point to the directory where that model file lives. I'm going to point this back into the decompile folder, and I'm going to extract. Model loaded, model dumped. So what that did is if I come back into my bots folder, this is where it took the information from. It took the valve model files, these 6 right here, and it decompiled them into the SMD files. And what these SMD files are the 3D renditions of the model. So if I was to open up Blender or Maya or any other 3D program that supports SMD format, we'll get rid of that default cube, and I have the SMD plugin here for Blender. If I do a file import SMD, and if I go to that folder, and I open up what I find is that I now have and am able to edit, oops, that's the skeleton. I'm in edit mode for the skeleton. I can actually go through and I can edit the pyro bot. Notice how he doesn't have a head, maybe. Let's have a quick look here. Back into object mode, rotate X 90, and oops. Let's select everything. Rotate X 90, and if I come back out and I zoom out, I'll notice that he does not have a head. The reason being is that his head is a separate model. Import. And there's his head right there. And I want to extend the existing model. There's his head. Okay, so that being said, I can go through, I can edit this model now to do whatever I want and make it look however I want, all the rest of that good stuff, but that's a different tutorial. Right now all we want to do is blow this guy up so that he's 10 times his normal size. So once I've got the model decompiled, what I have to do is I have to go into the QC and I have to edit the QC. Now I'm going to leave the model reference up here because there's certain things within the QC that need to be fixed. Okay? First one being, I want to rename the model to be something else. I don't want it to be bot pyro, because if I use bot pyro, what it will do is it will overwrite the player model of the bot in the TF. So I'm going to rename the model and I'm going to call it GBot for Giant Bot Pyro. The next thing I'm going to do is, you see here where it says .dmx? Well, basically what it's trying to do is it's trying to call these LODs, but they don't exist in the model folder. When we decompiled the model, they all came in as dmx.smds. So what we have to do is we have to go through and we have to replace .dmx with .dmx.smd. And you have to be careful because some of them already have that. So search, replace dmx with dmx.smd. Find next. I want to replace that one, replace it, replace it. I'm not going to do it all because it would end up duplicating this one. So find next, replace, 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 replace. And this one here we don't need to change because if you look here it is already .smd. However, if you look up here in the LODs, unknown name SMD, well, basically down here it would be trying to call the same, it tried to do the same thing, but it wouldn't be able to find the extensions. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy that and we're going to replace that now with that.smd. And let's see, we want to replace that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Okay, now we can close that out. That's pretty much all we have to replace. If we come down here, and because I've already run this once, for whatever reason, when I try to do the compile, well, we'll go through it and I'll show you what has to happen. But for now, we're going to file, save this, and now we're finished editing the QC. We're not going to rescale the model right now. The first thing we want to do is we want to bring the original model into Usermod and see if it compiles properly. Okay, so once that's done, now I have to open up Gui Studio. Gui Studio is available from Wonderboy.org, and it is a program that is used to interface with the model compiler, and it will recompile your models into valid format. You need these programs. Basically, you guys are going to have to go out and find them. I'm not going to put any links there. If you guys want to do this, basically you guys got to go and do some work on your own. So I'm going to open up Gui Studio 2.2, and I have to tell it where Source FilmMaker lives. Now, for whatever reason, and here's another edit that I had to do, for whatever reason, the game info file that comes with Source FilmMaker, the app ID and the tool app ID that is in the game info file text doesn't work for me. I actually had to go through and I had to edit it. So what we're going to do is we are now going to go off and we're going to edit the game user file, or the game info file. And the game info text file is found in the Usermod directory. Right there. Now, do I have an original copy? Give me 1 second here. No, I've already changed that one. Okay, anyway, make a long story short, open the game info text file. Right here where it says Steam App ID and where it says Tool App ID, this value will be set to 1840. That's what it looks like. Okay? In order for the models to compile for me, I don't know why this is. It might be because I have Gui Studio set up in my SDK directory, whatever. I have to change this value to 41010. Okay? I have to change that to 41010. If I don't, my models will not compile. So once you've changed that under the Steam App ID and the Tool App ID, file, save, and carry on. Now, GUI Studio is loaded. We have to tell GUI Studio where Source FilmMaker lives. So what we need to do is we need to select orange box, and see here it knows about Team Fortress, Data Defeat Source, Counter Strike Source, but it doesn't know about Source FilmMaker. We click Add, and for whatever reason I have to do this every time I start a new instance of GUI Studio. I'm going to point it to my Usermod directory, and I'm going to load the game info text file. Puts in the mod as Source FilmMaker Beta, and now it knows where everything lives. Next thing I have to do now is I have to load the QC file. And that's back here in the bots directory under compile, bot pyro, and this is the one that we just finished editing. If we did everything right, when I hit the compile button, or when you hit the compile button, it should compile the model and place everything in Usermod. Oh no, I have an error and the process aborted. I don't know why, but GUI Studio is limited to 8 LOD renders of a model. This particular model has 9. So what we need to do is we need to either kill one of the LODs that are in the QC, or what we can do is we can actually come in here under the orange box options. We can strip the LODs. We don't need them for Source FilmMaker anyway. LODs are for gameplay where the models start to compact themselves the farther away you get from them. They're not as clear, and it just cuts down on the number of vertices and whatnot else in a model. Okay, so now that I've clicked on stripped LODs, I'm going to hit the compile button again. And there's that error I was telling you about earlier. Cannot find bone PRP fuel tank. So what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to edit the QC again and remove that hitbox for the fuel tank. So go into bots, decompile, bot pyro, open the QC file. Down here in the hitboxes where it says PRP fuel tank, comment that out by putting in 2 slashes. File save the QC again, exit out of it, exit out of that, reload the, clear the log, reload the QC, and compile. If everything went all right, it should end up saying completed model compiler QC. And if you scroll back up through here, you'll find that there might be a couple of warning messages, but there shouldn't be any errors and everything went through. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize this for now, and now I'm going to start Source FilmMaker. Create a session, load a map, and now I'm going to load. I'm going to change to the motion editor, move the camera out a bit so that I'm not right on the floor. Now I'm going to load, create an animation set for a new model. And normally I start in the All Mods with nothing selected here. Okay. And in the models file, the first model up is usually the advisor. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Usermod, and I am going to search for Pyro. Now, what I'm going to find is I'm going to find the gbot Pyro model was created, but the gbot is going to be the regular size. I'm going to open the model in Source FilmMaker. And you'll notice that he's lying on the ground, and basically if you went looking for his root transform, you're going to find it on the ceiling. Anyway, way that we get this guy into proper position is by selecting the bot and zeroing out the default. What that will do is it will bring everything into line properly. His root transform is now at his feet where it belongs, and basically we've got the regular sized bot, Pyro bot, in Source FilmMaker from the Usermod. Now comes the fun part. We're going to exit out of Source FilmMaker simply due to the fact that new materials and models will not automatically populate. We're going to go back into the QC file, and up here, before any model is referenced, after the bot's name, we're going to add the command line $scale, and where I'm getting this information from is from the Valve development developer site, and basically I'm going to type in here QC, and it's going to take me to a whole bunch of stuff on QCs, and right here QC commands, and I'm going to look for scale. And basically what it tells me here is that the multiplies the size of all subsequent SMDs. It does not affect values defined in the QC itself. Okay, example are attachments. Therefore, the attachment of his head is going to go where it actually belongs. Okay? Now, warning. Scale prevents flex animations from working. So in other words, if your model, if you need to have lip sync or eye movement of your model, of your giant model, you cannot use this method because the flex bars are not going to work on your model after you do the scale. Okay, now the other thing is that there's another reference in here where it says that in order to use the scale, the scale command, and I can't find it now. Yeah, I hate it when that happens. Here we go. Do not use this unless you can't find what you're looking for in the QC commands reference. But anyway, if I come down here and I find scale right here, causes all bones, scale the model to the given amount. A scale of 0.1 makes the model normal size. 0.05 is half size and 0.2 is double the size. Okay, note that the scale command must be given before any SMD file references. Otherwise, it will not be applied. So what that means is that up here, before any of these SMDs are called, I have to put in my scale command. Now, what I want to do is I want to make the scale 10 times the size of the normal bot, right? Okay, file save that. Go back into our Gui Studio, reload the QC file, and compile. Okay. Close that all down, relaunch Source FilmMaker. Create a session, load a map. This time I'm going to load the big stage. Okay, I'm going to load an animation or create an animation set for a new model. I'm going to select the gbot pyro. Pardon me. And you'll notice that there's nothing here in the model selection area. But I'm going to open it anyway. Now, looking around, I don't see anything. I'm going to select the motion editor. I'm going to select the bot. There's the root transform. It's up top again. I'm going to back the camera away. And I am going to default the character. There's your bot. Rotate them up. "90 degrees. You'll notice that his bone structure is still in place, and he is 10 times the size of the normal bot. And to prove that, Create the animation set for a new model. All models. Pyro. Bot Pyro. Open him up. Oh, he looks the same size, but wait. Let's put him on the floor where he belongs. And there you go. One giant bot. Now, let's have a little bit of fun with them. One thing that I found is that with these particular bots is that they will accept a rig. And there you have how I created last year's model. Okay, hopefully this will satisfy some of the needs out there for creating giant models. If you do this and you want to have them holding his flamethrower, guess what? Well, you got to do the same thing to the flamethrower. So, anyway, good luck with it. Have fun with it. And with that, Private Jack out.